Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to another episode recap of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. This one is the penultimate episode to Scott to Pilgrim. Take on Too Fast, Too Furious, if you catch my drift there. But anyway, this one is Scott's kind of, face slap, if you will, like his face slap episode that kind of explains where Scott is, how Scott needs to be, and kind of gives him the whole face slap type of deal that we were talking about in the last episode recap and review. If you guys need a catch up, just I guess watch that one, But anyway, what goes on in this one? Well, we find out exactly what happened, how Scott kind of quote unquote died, but didn't quite die, of course, because the name of the show is Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, and you can't really have Scott Pilgrim Takes Off without Scott Pilgrim, so he can't really die. But yeah, there's that. Anyway, we find out the history of the future of Scott with old Scott. Yes, a double Scott. Old Scott, someone who hasn't really learned his lesson and all that. Absolutely gold. My gosh, look, and it's played by Will Forte. And listen, I'm not the biggest Will Forte fan. I mean, he's done some good stuff. I think the first season or two of The Last Man on Earth, that's actually a pretty decent show. But then it starts to get a little old. Some things he just goes a little too hard in a few places, but this one I like. I like his performance here. He does a really good old Scott here. Okay, I gotta say, nice touch. But anyway, we find out that Scott won in the previous, round of whatever, which kind of makes the movie and the comic kind of canon. Whichever one you want to put in here, it leaves it vague enough for it to kind of, put whatever you want into this particular, rendition, I guess. I think it's more along the lines with the comics, but I think you can kind of put the movie in here as well, but you can't really put both of them because they kind of do kind of separate things a little bit. But anyway, so what happened? So, as we previously mentioned, the twins made a robot who's vegan, made a portal to the past to get young Scott into the future. And old Scott kind of lays down everything. So, the events of the comics / movie, whichever one you want to prefer, kind of happened. It happened. He won. And he actually got to marry Ramona. But they get divorced because, yes, Scott, the show perfectly examines Scott's character, and Scott does in fact suck. So good going. Just thumbs up right there. Beautiful. Anyway, we find out that Scott really, in the past 14, 15 years or whatever, hasn't really changed at all. He still has a band with the twins, because, he has to have a band with the twins or whatever. He has to have a band, but this time it's with the twins, I guess. But anyway, he still lives with Wallace. He still crashes with Wallace and all that. He doesn't have anything else by himself. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have anything. All he's got is his band, and he lives with Wallace, and that's it. His life is basically almost the exact same. And now, since he's old, he's a loser. Which, I gotta say, another awesome thing here, because Scott does in fact suck. And this show, if you show him not progressing, like many people kind of think they would be, if, they decide to be in a band or whatever, and they think Scott's the hero or whatever. Just imagine Scott staying like this forever. Yeah, he's a loser. Which, yeah, he is. If he does keep on doing this, he doesn't mature or grow, he's going to be a loser. And he is. Also, I gotta say, I love Old Wallace. Old Wallace is pretty epic, as is Wallace in this entire show. I don't know what they did with Wallace. They just really let him flow, Maybe they let Kieran Culkin kind of do his thing. I don't know what they did, but hey, it works. Let me tell you, okay? It absolutely works. But anyway, though, we talked to old Ramona and all that, who, after the whole shindig happened, she implanted we find out that she's the one that actually went back in time and put the script of Scott Pilgrim's life, I guess, into young Neil's computer and all that, which, after hearing that, both Scotts are kind of like, oh, shoot, you did that? Interesting. It's like, she still loves him, but he needs to grow up and mature. He doesn't grow up and mature. He's just staying the way he is, But, surprisingly enough, this isn't necessarily her doing. It's also old Neil's memoir that he wrote, which, I gotta say, they use old young Neil, which I gotta say, nice touch. They got the comedy down. They got the comedy down in these episodes. It's dark, but it's hilarious, okay? They don't let up on the comedy whatsoever. But yeah. They bring, I guess Ramona also brings Scott back to the past and all that, but old Scott's still, trying to be his old timey-wimey self, just being all like, hey, you gotta let Ramona go, Don't let Ramona do her thing and all that, or else I'm not taking you back to the future. But old Ramona does take him back to the future. Or take him back to the past, whatever it is, I don't know. Back to the future, back to the past, I'm kind of getting discombobulated now, whatever. Losing my voice. Also, my apologies. Anyway, though, this is the episode also that we kind of get the wrap-up, Like previously mentioned, Scott does get that, slap across the face and like saying, hey, you suck, Scott. You gotta grow. You gotta mature. So, what's the first thing he does, basically, when he gets there? He tells them what happens, and then he goes over to the knives and was like, hey, listen, I should probably not date you because you're a high schooler, and I'm like 22, 21, something like that. It's not really looking favorable upon us. I also used you. I'm sorry. That whole thing, kind of be mature and all that. And she's actually a little bit more mature than he is, because if I found out that my significant other was older than me and also, dating someone else, I'd be kind of mad. But she actually takes it in stride, I gotta say, it's done very, very well. Also, Ramona and Scott, they still got some connectivity, even though there's a little bit of a a little bit of whatever still there, but, it's still very nice and very well done. Yeah, there's some baggage, but they still want to give it a try, She's done all this stuff, trying to get Scott back. She still wants to have a go at it, I gotta say. Very nice, well done. But, unfortunately, we gotta figure out what's behind the force field and all that, because there's a force field behind them and they can't kiss, they can't do whatever they need to do, so they gotta figure out who's behind the force field. So they gotta go to Gideon's play that he's performing and all that, and yeah, that's where they're going, because all the evil exes are there. So who's the person that puts the force field upon Ramona? We don't know until the next episode. And you know what? Chef's kiss. This is a really, really great episode. If you are, just kind of saying, where the hell is Scott in Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, this is the episode for you, okay? This kind of really just takes everything from the previous season of this show and applies it full hard into this episode with Scott in particular. Like I said, it is a complete slap across the face for Scott's character. And I gotta say, it is very well done. They got it. They got it. Anyway, though, guys, what do you think of this episode? Does it rock? Does it suck? How else would you describe Scott's character going from 0 to 100 in like the matter of an episode? I personally really enjoy it, but what do you guys think? Why don't you comment and let me know? Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. More vids coming your way, and hey, take care, guys.